As Amara stepped carefully into the water, the sun seemed to dim and the sky turned an eerie shade of grey. The icy water rushed over her feet, but Amara forced a reassuring smile at Nyla. Suddenly, from behind, Selena appeared like a quiet yet menacing gust of wind. Before Amara could react, Selena lunged forward using both hands to shove her forcefully into the water. Once upon a time, nestled among the lush green hills of southern Mississippi, there was a peaceful little village where time seemed to slow down and the crisp melodies of birdsong filled the air. In that village lived a beloved couple, Jonah, a hard-working farmer, and Lila, his gentle wife with a beauty like the morning sunshine. They were the epitome of love and dedication, a pair admired by everyone. Yet while the village echoed with the cheerful laughter of children, the little home of Jonah and Lila lacked the most precious sound of all, the cries of a child. 6 years had passed, and their love had endured every storm, but deep inside they couldn't conceal the quiet sorrow that lingered. They longed deeply for a child, a small ray of light to complete their family. Every day, Jonah and Lila would walk hand in hand to the ancient oak tree near the village river, a place believed by the villagers to hold sacred power. There they knelt, hands clasped tightly together, and prayed. Their heartfelt pleas mingled with the whispers of the wind through the leaves, carrying their hopes to the vast, clear sky. In her soft voice, Lila murmured her wish for their small home to be filled with the joyful laughter of a child. Jonah, though a strong man, could not hide the patient hope shining in his eyes. Then, one summer morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the curtains, Lila suddenly felt something different. A warmth spread through her, deep and undeniable. She placed her hand on her stomach, her wide eyes brimming with astonishment, and her heart raced with a miraculous belief. It wasn't just any feeling, it was the first sign of life. "Jonah!" Lila called out, her voice trembling with emotion. When Jonah rushed to her side and looked into her eyes, he knew their dream had finally begun to come true. Joy spread throughout the village like wildfire on a cold winter night. Neighbours flocked to Jonah and Lila's home to congratulate them. Laughter and heartfelt blessings filled the air. "The Lord has heard their prayers," an elderly woman in the village whispered, her eyes glistening with tears. Lila became the centre of affection and care. Villagers not only congratulated her, but also brought her the best foods and shared traditional stories about staying healthy during pregnancy. Jonah, a man used to long days of labour, now spent more time tending to his wife and preparing their little home for the arrival of their child. The anticipation grew with each passing day. Jonah even dreamed of tiny footsteps running through the house and laughter warming his heart. Lila, her hand resting on her growing belly, constantly envisioned the day she would gaze upon the tiny face that would call her mother. The small village, once serene, now brimmed with excitement. Everyone believed that with the arrival of this child, not only Jonah and Lila, but the entire village would be filled with new life and energy. They all agreed that this child was not just a gift for the couple, but a beacon of hope for the community. In the soft glow of sunset, beneath the ancient oak tree where they had prayed so fervently, Jonah and Lila looked into each other's eyes with indescribable happiness. They knew that their future was no longer just theirs, but also belonged to the little soul who was about to bring extraordinary joy into their lives. And then, the long-awaited day finally arrived. On a morning bathed in golden sunlight, the first cries of a newborn echoed from Jonah and Lila's small home. It was not just the cry of new life, but a joyful bell ringing, heralding a miracle. Lila had given birth to a beautiful baby girl whom they named Amara, meaning eternal light. Jonah, a strong and steadfast father, could not hold back the tears of happiness streaming down his face as he cradled his daughter for the first time. From the very first moment, Amara brought a sense of wonder. Her bright eyes and cheerful giggles were like the sun shining through thick clouds. In that small home, the quiet sadness of the past had been replaced with the resounding laughter of a happy family. Jonah often sat by Amara's cradle, watching her sleep and silently thanking the stars above for this incredible gift. Amara was not only the pride of Jonah and Lila, but soon became the center of the entire village. Every morning when Lila carried Amara outside, the village seemed to pause just to greet the little girl. Farmers stopped their work, mothers smiled warmly, and even the elderly, who often sat quietly on their porches, couldn't help but chuckle whenever Amara joyfully played. Amara's presence was like a refreshing breeze sweeping through the village. From fireside tales to bustling markets, the name Amara was spoken everywhere, bringing pride and hope to all. "She's not just adorable, she's a blessing," people often whispered to each other. The news of Amara's beauty and charm didn't stop within the village. Stories of the Child of Light spread as far as the city of Jackson, where noble families heard of the remarkable girl. One day, a luxurious carriage from the city arrived at the village. A noblewoman stepped out holding a small jewelry box and made her way to Jonah's home to meet the girl. She could hardly believe her eyes when she saw Amara, a child with eyes as bright as gemstones and a smile that melted every heart. "This child will change the world," the woman said, presenting a small pearl necklace to Amara as a gift, symbolizing prosperity and fortune. Amara captivated not only with her appearance, but also with her pure heart. She made no distinction between the wealthy and the poor. From the impoverished children in the village to distinguished visitors from afar, she greeted them all with her radiant smile. And it was through this simple act that Amara became a symbol of unity, bridging all divides within the small village. As time passed, Amara's light only grew brighter. She was not just the joy of Jonah and Lila, but also the hope of the entire community. Those who once harbored worries now found their hearts lightened at the thought of Amara, a child born of love and unwavering faith. And as the villagers often said, "As long as Amara is here, the light will never fade." 10 years flew by like a swift breeze. Amara, once a little girl with cheerful giggles, had now grown into a graceful and kind-hearted young woman. Her bright eyes seemed to reflect the light of the sky, and her smile could melt even the coldest of hearts. Amara was not only the pride of Jonah and Lila, but also a guiding light for the entire village. Every day she helped the elderly, played with children, and was always ready to share with those in need. To the villagers, Amara was a living testament to kindness and unconditional love. Yet this happiness could not hide a deep void in Jonah and Lila's lives. Despite their deep love for each other and unwavering hope, they were unable to have another child. Whenever someone asked, Lila would only offer a gentle smile, but Jonah could see the hidden sadness in his wife's eyes. This sorrow grew heavier when Jonah's family began to apply pressure. During family gatherings, the conversation about the need for an heir became incessant. "Jonah," said an elderly uncle, his voice raspy but firm, "you must think about the family's future. Without a son, who will carry on our legacy and traditions?" Though Jonah loved his wife deeply and did not wish to disrupt their family's happiness, he could not entirely ignore the mounting pressure. Those words, like tiny seeds, quietly took root in his heart. Still, Jonah stood firm and declared to his family, "My love for Lila is eternal. I don't need anyone else to feel complete." As time passed, the pressure didn't lessen. Instead, it intensified. Judgmental glances from relatives and whispered comments behind his back weighed heavily on Jonah. Eventually, under relentless pressure, Jonah reluctantly conceded. He agreed to take another wife in hopes of having an heir. A few months later, Jonah's family found Selena, a woman from a distant town. With her elegant demeanor and gentle attitude, Selena quickly won the favor of Jonah's family. When she entered Jonah's home, she carried herself with poise, her eyes sparkling like pearls, and a smile that led many to believe she was the epitome of perfection. The villagers began to gossip, saying Jonah had chosen well, but only Selena knew the truth, that behind her polished exterior lay a heart full of schemes. From the moment she crossed Jonah's threshold, she realized she was not the most cherished one in the household. The overwhelming presence of Lila, the first wife revered by the villagers, and the radiant aura of Amara, the beloved daughter, made Selena feel threatened. Selena began quietly nurturing jealousy in her heart. "I won't let them overshadow me," she told herself, her sweet smile momentarily replaced by a cold glint in her eyes. Though outwardly Selena appeared gentle and respectful of every tradition, inside her mind was consumed by her own plans. For her, nothing was more important than securing her position in the family, even if it meant tearing apart the sacred bonds that held it together. Thus began the storm that no one in Jonah's small household could have foreseen. From the moment Selena stepped across the threshold of Jonah's house, she felt she did not belong. The admiring glances the villagers gave to Nyla and Amara were like invisible daggers piercing her pride. Though she was greeted with politeness, Selena could not endure the feeling of being a shadow beside the radiant presence of Nyla, the woman who held Jonah's heart, and Amara, the daughter treasured by the entire village. To Selena, they were not family, but obstacles blocking her path to supremacy within the household. Selena was accustomed to being the center of attention, and she could not accept being second to anyone in any situation. The looks of admiration and the praise directed at Nyla and Amara only fueled the fire of jealousy, burning fiercely within her. She began comparing herself to Lila, and each comparison wounded her pride. Why do they love her so much? Just because she came first, Selena would often think to herself, her eyes flashing with anger. After 3 months of living in Jonah's house, Selena announced that she was pregnant. This news brought immense joy to Jonah's family. But for Selena, it was not just the happiness of an expectant mother. It was an opportunity to cement her position. She believed that giving birth to an heir, a baby boy, would allow her to surpass Nyla and erase the overwhelming shadow of the first wife from Jonah's heart and the villagers' minds. Selena did not hold back her sharp remarks toward Nyla. "Nyla, you must be so jealous, right? Finally, this family will have a true heir," she would say with barely concealed pride, often rubbing her belly for emphasis. Her cutting words felt like daggers piercing Nyla's heart, but Nyla remained composed. Despite the cruel jabs, she refused to let Selena's bitterness shake her spirit. When the time for childbirth arrived, Selena was brimming with anticipation. She envisioned the villagers gathering around, celebrating her like a queen who had just given birth to a future king. But harsh reality shattered her dreams. Selena gave birth to a baby girl, a possibility she had never considered. Instead of joy, she felt an overwhelming wave of disappointment. In the first moment of holding the child in her arms, her heart was filled with anger rather than love. It felt as though destiny had betrayed her. "How could this happen?" Selena whispered bitterly. The innocent child received no loving gaze from her mother, only coldness and resentment. Failing to deliver a son allowed Selena's jealousy to spiral out of control. Her gaze toward Nyla and Amara grew increasingly venomous, her envy no longer hidden. She despised the cheerful laughter of Amara echoing through the village and loathed the proud look Jonah often gave his daughter. Each passing day, Selena felt herself overshadowed, pushed further into irrelevance. Her jealousy had now become a consuming inferno. Selena no longer thought of reconciliation or seeking love within the family. Instead, she began quietly plotting revenge. "They have stolen my light," she thought, her eyes glinting with cold determination. "I will take it all back." Little did she realize that the fire of jealousy she nurtured would not only destroy this family but also consume her in the end. One beautiful morning, as the sunlight sparkled on the tranquil river, Amara and her half-sister Nyla were sent by their mother to fetch water at the riverbank. The sound of birdsong filled the air, and the cool water flowed gracefully over the stones, creating a scene that seemed to come alive from a vivid painting of nature. Amara, with her pure heart and gentle smile, was always willing to help. She adored Nyla, treating her as true family despite their different mothers. This kindness made Nyla feel both jealous and deeply guilty. But no one knew that behind what seemed like an innocent outing, a dark scheme had been brewing. From the shadows of her hut, Selena, Nyla's mother, silently watched. A sinister plan had been forming in her mind for a long time, and now the moment to execute it had arrived. Selena called Nyla over, her voice sweet yet laced with danger. "My dear, I need you to do a small favor for me. Tell Amara to try swimming in the river. Tell her the water there will make her even more beautiful and bring her good fortune." Though hesitant, Nyla dared not defy her mother. A vague sense of unease crept into her heart, but the icy look in Selena's eyes silenced any protests she might have had. When they arrived at the river, Amara carefully filled her earthen jug with water. Her every movement was gentle and graceful, as if she was one with nature. Then Nyla spoke, her voice soft but tinged with compulsion. "Sister Amara, why don't you try swimming? They say the water here is very good. It'll make you even more beautiful." Amara paused in surprise. Her eyes reflected doubt, for she had grown up hearing villagers' dark tales about this river. They whispered that its deep waters were home to cursed spirits and that anyone who dared to swim there would never return the same. "I'm not so sure, Nyla," Amara replied, her eyes glancing over the still water as if it were hiding a dark secret. Yet under Nyla's persistent urging, and not wanting to disappoint her younger sister, Amara finally nodded. "All right, I'll try, but just for a moment." As Amara stepped into the water, the sun seemed to dim and the sky turned unnaturally grey. The icy water enveloped her legs, but Amara forced a reassuring smile toward Nyla. Suddenly, Selena emerged from behind like a silent and menacing gust of wind. Before Amara could react, Selena lunged forward and pushed her forcefully into the water with both hands. The world seemed to freeze in that moment. Amara screamed, but her cry was swallowed by the rippling waves. Her body disappeared beneath the river's surface, and something extraordinary began to unfold. A faint light emanated from where Amara had vanished, and instead of a young woman, a magnificent fish emerged from the depths. Its shimmering scales reflected a soft, gem-like glow. Selena stood by the riverbank, her eyes filled with satisfaction as she witnessed Amara's strange transformation. Her human form had completely vanished, merging with the mysterious river, leaving behind an eerie silence. Nyla could only stand frozen, trembling with horror, her eyes wide with terror. "Mother, what have you done?" she whispered, but Selena did not answer. Instead, she turned her back and walked away, leaving Nyla alone by the haunting river. That moment of destiny not only altered Amara's life forever, but also set in motion a chain of catastrophic events that no one in Jonah's family could have foreseen. Selena, her eyes cold and piercing, gripped Nyla's hand tightly as they left the riverbank. "Listen to me," Selena whispered, her voice commanding and sharp. "You will not breathe a word about what happened today. If you do, both of us will pay the price. Do you understand?" Nyla could only nod, her eyes red with fear. Her heart was heavy with guilt, but the terror of her mother kept her silent. When they returned home, Selena pretended as though nothing had happened. She carried on with her daily tasks, her composed demeanour chillingly unsettling. No one in the family or the village noticed anything unusual, except for Nyla, who now lived with an internal battle of guilt and fear. Selena, with her masterful acting, made everyone believe that everything was normal, that Amara had simply gone for a walk and would soon return. But while Selena slept soundly with a wicked smile on her face, Amara was trapped beneath the river in the form of a beautiful fish. She drifted aimlessly through the dark waters, her mind filled with confusion and her heart weighed down by sorrow. Her luminous fish eyes still held their gentle quality, but they now reflected an unspeakable pain. At night, the moonlight shimmered on the river's surface as if mourning her unjust fate. However, the river was not entirely silent. One night, under a brilliantly glowing full moon, a loyal servant of Jonah's family happened to walk by the riverbank. She paused, hearing an eerie sound, a haunting melody carried on the wind, as if a soul were lamenting. She crept closer to the water's edge, and, in the shimmering current, she saw a magnificent fish with scales that glowed like pearls. The fish gazed at her with familiar eyes, and in that moment, the servant realized the truth. The fish was Amara. Unable to hold back her tears, the servant knelt by the riverbank. "Poor child, have you truly endured such a fate?" she whispered. Though Amara could not speak, she swished her tail as if pleading silently for help. From that night on, the servant decided to secretly bring food to Amara every night, despite the risks. She would sneak scraps of bread and fruit from the kitchen, slipping out to the riverbank while the household slept. Each time she visited Amara, she prayed that one day a miracle would restore the girl to her human form. The tale of the glowing fish in the river began to spread, though no one dared approach it, as the river was still regarded as cursed. One night, as the servant sat by the riverbank, the prince from Jackson happened to pass nearby while hunting. The light from the water caught his attention. The prince, a man with keen eyes and a compassionate heart, could not look away from the strange sight. A fish of unearthly beauty, accompanied by an old woman murmuring something by the water. "What are you doing here?" the prince asked, startling the servant. She turned, frightened and ready to flee, but the prince stopped her. "Tell me the truth. What is this fish, and why are you here every night?" Realizing she could no longer keep the secret, the servant knelt before the prince and recounted everything, from Selena's wicked scheme to the truth about Amara. The prince was stunned by the heartbreaking tale, his gaze falling upon the fish with deep empathy and curiosity. "She doesn't deserve this," he said softly but firmly. "I will find a way to bring her back." With a heart full of determination, the prince vowed to uncover the truth and rescue Amara from the river's curse. He knew this would not merely be a matter of breaking a spell, but also a quest to restore justice for an innocent soul who had been cruelly betrayed. News of the miraculous fish and the servant's heartbreaking story compelled the prince to act immediately. He could not stand by in the face of the injustice Amara had endured. At dawn's faint light the next morning, the prince summoned the elders and most respected figures from neighboring villages to a secret meeting. The room was thick with tension, filled with scrutinizing gazes among the elders, and the blazing determination in the prince's eyes. "I need you to uncover the truth," the prince said, his voice firm yet heavy with emotion. "An innocent girl has been transformed into a creature of the river by jealousy and cruelty. This is not only a personal betrayal but a stain upon our community." The elders, though initially skeptical, could not ignore the gravity of the prince's words. They questioned those involved, one by one, until finally Nyla, Amara's half-sister, was called forth. Standing before the stern gazes of the elders and the prince's gentle yet resolute demeanour, Nyla could no longer bear the weight of her silence. With a trembling voice, she confessed the entire truth. Every word felt like a blade cutting through the veil of secrecy Selena had woven. "Mother made me do it. I didn't want to hurt Amara." "I'm so sorry," Nyla sobbed, her small shoulders shaking. The room fell silent. Nyla's confession was like thunder breaking through a clear sky, illuminating every dark corner of the tale. The prince, filled with deep compassion, placed a reassuring hand on Nyla's shoulder. "It's not your fault," he said, his voice warm and steady. "But now we must do everything we can to bring Amara back." The elders unanimously decided on the only solution, performing an ancient ritual by the river, a time-honored ceremony believed to break the curse. However, the ritual was no simple task. It required meticulous preparation and spanned 7 days, involving the participation of the entire community. For 7 days, the once gloomy riverbank transformed into a hub of hope and anticipation. People from far and wide gathered, bringing offerings symbolizing purity and devotion. Small tents were erected to prepare for the ceremony, and the glow of torches illuminated the river throughout the nights. The elders, dressed in traditional robes, took turns praying and singing ancient hymns, as though summoning Amara's spirit back. The river reflected the flickering light, and a sense of mysticism enveloped the gathering. The prince never left the river's side, his eyes fixed on every ripple, his heart steadfast with hope. On the 7th day, as the golden hue of sunset bathed the water, a strange phenomenon occurred. The river suddenly surged, and from its depths, a radiant light burst forth, as powerful as the sun itself. The villagers, the elders, and the prince all held their breath, their eyes wide with wonder. The glowing fish, familiar from the stories, slowly surfaced. But this time, it didn't end there. The figure of Amara, more resplendent than ever, began to emerge. She stood in the midst of the dazzling light, as if a celestial being reborn, a white gown as luminous as the light surrounded her, and her bright eyes gazed around, filled with joy and emotion. "Amara has returned!" someone exclaimed, and the riverbank erupted in jubilant cheers. The prince rushed to Amara's side, his eyes glistening with tears. "At last, justice has been served," he whispered, taking her hand. News of Amara's miraculous return spread quickly across the region. Jonah and Lila's village was overcome with emotion upon hearing the news. Tears of joy streamed down Lila's face as she embraced her daughter tightly. Jonah, a man known for his strength, could not hold back his feelings. The village, once cloaked in gloom, now radiated with faith and love. Amara had not only returned to her family but had become a symbol of hope and renewal, a reminder to all that even in the darkest depths, light could find its way back. That morning, under the shade of the ancient oak trees by the riverbank, Selena and Nyla were brought before the village elders and the townspeople for judgment. The atmosphere was heavy, filled with anger and sorrow from those who had witnessed Jonah's family torn apart. Selena, once poised and confident, now had only bitterness and desperation in her eyes. Beside her stood Nyla, with tear-filled eyes, her head bowed, unable to meet anyone's gaze. "Selena," one elder began, his voice strong and resolute, "you have committed an unforgivable crime. Jealousy, deceit, and your wicked actions nearly took the life of an innocent girl. For these heinous deeds, you are hereby banished from this village. You are no longer part of our community." The elder's pronouncement thundered in Selena's heart like a crashing storm. She fell to her knees, yet not a single tear of remorse fell. Her envious gaze swept over the crowd one last time before she was led away, never to return. When Nyla was called forward, she broke down in tears, confessing her guilt and expressing genuine repentance. "I didn't mean to hurt Amara. I was afraid of my mother. I'm sorry." Her words echoed in the silent air, melting even the hardest of hearts. After deliberation, the elders chose to forgive Nyla, on the condition that she live an honest life and atone for her mistakes through dedication to her family and community. After the trial, in front of the entire village, Jonah knelt before Lila and Amara. His eyes brimming with tears, his voice choked with emotion, he said, "Lila, Amara, I made the greatest mistake of my life by letting fear and pressure overshadow the love I have for you both. I cannot change the past, but I vow to spend the rest of my life making amends. Please give me a chance to make it right." Lila, who had endured so much pain, stepped closer to Jonah. In that moment, there was no blame, only love and forgiveness. "We've lost so much, but I believe in our love. Let's rebuild this family together," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. Amara also approached, placing her hand on her father's shoulder. "Father, a family is built on love and forgiveness. I've always believed that we can overcome anything." Months later, joy returned to Jonah's family when Amara and the prince celebrated their wedding in the city of Jackson. It was a grand event known throughout the region. Radiant lanterns adorned the streets, lively music filled the air, and all eyes were on Amara, the bride glowing in a white gown, embodying the light of hope. In his speech, the prince said, "Amara is not only the one I love, but also a symbol of courage and perseverance. Our love proves that no matter how dark the shadows, the light of truth and love will always find a way back." The loyal servant who had risked everything to care for Amara during her darkest days was made a royal advisor in the palace, earning respect and admiration from both the prince and the people. Amara's story of pain, betrayal, and the journey to rediscover herself became a legend passed down through generations. It reminded everyone that truth has the power to overcome darkness, and true love is a flame that never dies. Selena, blinded by jealousy, destroyed herself. Nyla, despite her mistakes, learned the value of repentance, and Jonah, a father who faltered, found love and forgiveness within his family once more. And Amara, with her steadfast heart, became a beacon of hope, proving that even in the worst circumstances, courage and compassion can lead to a beautiful ending. If this story touched your heart, please like, share it with your friends and family in the United States, and subscribe to our channel African Tales Best to never miss more inspiring stories. Each time you interact, you help us spread positivity to African American communities, preserve culture, teach valuable lessons, and share life-changing stories. What about you? Have you ever witnessed a story where truth and love triumphed over darkness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We can't wait to hear your story.